Now you're either high as or you're Chinese because your eyeballs look sunk into your face.
I would never let a white boy beat me. I'd never let a white boy beat me.
I'm not a racist. The only thing about it is that Muhammad Ali can jump around and say I'm a black militant and I'm not going to let any white boy whoop me and all of that.
I've always deemed sport as an amazing avenue to foster cohesion, unity and goodwill. Boxing, more often than not, has been a force for good, bringing communities together while building discipline and resilience. But boy oh boy, you'd have to be stupid to not realise that the sweet science has routinely been weaponised to suit racial agendas. Unfortunately, this fact was no more evident than on the night of September the 27th, 1980 in a hostile Wembley arena. Tensions were already incredibly high between the world middleweight title holder Alan Minter and America's Marvin Hagler in the build-up to the fight. Hagler was left incredibly frustrated after a questionable draw in his world title fight with Vito Antuofermo, meaning the Italian-American retained the belt. The Times boxing correspondent Srikumar Sen even had Hagler ahead by 4 whole rounds. Such was his annoyance that after Britain's Alan Minter defeated Antuofermo on the 16th of March 1980 to win the world middleweight belt, Hagler stated, "Minter is only champion because he gained the benefit of the beating I gave Antuofermo in Las Vegas." Unfortunately, the first few exchanges between the pair were to stir up racial tensions. At the Antuofermo-Hagler fight, Marvin had refused to shake Minter's hand. Now, there had been rumours that Hagler had once said to fellow boxer Kevin Finnegan that, "I don't touch white flesh." But Hagler strongly refuted this accusation, citing instead that he makes a point of never shaking hands with future opponents, as he didn't feel it appropriate to do so with someone he intended to inflict damage upon. I'm inclined to believe the American here due to standout examples.
Met the champ officially for the first time in your jump?
Tony, but I don't shake hands with the fight.
All right.
He also shook hands with Finnegan on 2 separate occasions. Nevertheless, Alan Minter would proceed to embarrass himself, proclaiming that he had worked 17 years to get to the top and that he did not intend to lose his title to a black man. Hagler responded furiously, claiming that he'd pay for saying that when they met at Wembley. The defence put forward by Minter that he had been misquoted and had actually said "that black man" papered over the cracks, as either way he had referenced the colour of Hagler's skin, and fanned the flames ahead of the fight. Minter wore Union Jack underwear at the weigh-in, which did little to tone down the racial feelings. And when the national anthem sounded pre-fight, the late Harry Mullen deemed it as a hymn of hate on a night that always threatened to end one way. I say with regret that this wasn't the only racially charged moment in Britain's long boxing history. I feel America's discrimination in the sport has been better documented, particularly in the Jack Johnson era. Boxing at the time was heavily framed through the prisms of nationalism and race, a Darwinist-style struggle, with the James J. Jeffries Great White Hope label underlining the issue. Yet Britain didn't exactly cover itself in glory during this period either, but hardly anyone seems to talk about it. In September 1911, Lancashire promoter James White announced the championship boxing match at Earl's Court, London on October the 2nd. It pitted the world heavyweight title holder, African-American Jack Johnson, against Billy Wells, the British contender. Yet controversy erupted, with Lord Stanhope declaring it wrong for whites to attack blacks and vice versa, fearing repercussions in the colonies whoever won. He said the match might cause a breach of the peace, citing contemporary events elsewhere. After Jack Johnson's win against James Jeffries in 1910, race riots had ensued across much of the US, and the British government were petrified of a similar situation unfolding. Additionally, Britain had recently established the Union of South Africa, adding to the racial tension across the empire as the Boers began to dominate the government. In light of this, the Wells-Johnson matchup was banned outright. Winston Churchill's Home Office declared the fight illegal as a breach of the peace and counter to the best interests of the nation and empire, while the English High Court granted an injunction preventing the lessees from holding the bout. A subsequent colour bar was introduced, preventing fighters from black and mixed race backgrounds to challenge for British professional titles. Insanely, this colour bar was only removed in 1948. Unfortunately, I feel the removal was more down to the intense pressure caused by the arrival of 500,000 people from various Caribbean and Commonwealth countries between 1948 and 1973, as opposed to a progressive attitude. Anyway, these new arrivals were not always welcomed by the local population, and this was apparent in a boxing sense. Boxer Errol Christie's parents arrived during the Windrush, and in his book, No Place to Hide, he highlights that he was told by a leading voice in the boxing world that he would have to accept less money on account of his pigmentation. Meanwhile, Jamaican-born British heavyweight Trevor Curry cited that in the 1980s he thought nothing of hearing people shout, "Kill the black bastard" from the crowd. In fact, my dad recently told me an equally depressing anecdote. A friend of his attended a cinema viewing of Tony Simpson's fight against Hagler in 1983. In a packed-out cinema in Simpson's hometown of Leicester, a frenzied crowd began to chant, "Sibbo, Sibbo, pull that trigger, kill that." You can picture the rest. So with this backdrop of the 1980s, where even Britain's own non-white fighters and footballers were frequently jeered at and abused, you can hopefully start to picture the atmosphere Marvin Hagler was walking into.
Just before the fight, Alan incautiously let drop a remark that no black guy was going to take his title, and there were plenty of people around ready to fasten onto that. So, unhappily, when Minter and Hagler came together on the night of September the 27th, 1980, when the arena was reeking not so much of patriotism, but had a decidedly rancid smell of racial.
Prior to the fight, it appeared that both parties could find anything to fall out over, a case in point being the Minter camp insisting that Hagler shave his beard off. Their obvious concern related to Minter's face being easily cut, as they felt the American could use his stubble in clinches to his advantage. Hagler's team pushed back, pointing to Minter's cutsman Jackie McCoy, insisting they would have Minter stripped of his title if any unknown substances other than 1 part water to 1,000 parts adrenaline were applied to his face. No love was lost. It was now set up to be an absolute stormer. But I kid you not, the atmosphere was one of the most hostile I've ever seen on video.
Of solidly pro-Minter supporters. The spotlight on the stars and stripes, and the atmosphere quite remarkable here in this Wembley arena tonight. The man, Hagler, calls himself the uncrowned middleweight champion of the world. Famous.
To me, the footage feels eerie and uncomfortable, but the crowd, evidently baying for Hagler's blood, was soon left stunned. Hagler would deliver a masterclass in the sweet science, bobbing and weaving before catching Minter incessantly as the Brit lunged forward. Within a minute, Minter had been cut under his left eye, largely from Hagler timing his jabs to perfection. The second round saw furious exchanges between the two, with Hagler catching Minter with lefts over the top. Minter had some success with straight rights and left hooks, but by the end of the second, the Brit's face was covered in blood. The third round was a demolition job from Hagler, with the American ruthlessly pursuing his tormentor around the ring, before the referee was forced to call it off due to the severity of Minter's cuts. But then, chaos ensued.
He said he was the rightful champion.
Beer cans were launched, forcing Hagler to flee. I'd class this as one of the lowest points in British boxing, robbing the great Hagler of receiving his belt in the ring. Harry Carpenter rightly labelled the event as a shame and disgrace. Fortunately, Hagler responded to the scenes like a champion.
Nobody seriously get hurt.
What did you think about those bad scenes afterwards?
Well, it just showed me how famous that I was and how much, you know, you have to have a entree, you know, a way out or a way in, you know, and that's what I liked it about it. But I'm glad to bring Alan Minter back down to earth and hoping that.
But now I'd like to hear your thoughts on the whole fiasco. Has racism in British boxing been woefully ignored? After all, in September 2023, 2 senior referees took the British Boxing Board of Control to court over alleged racial discrimination. Please let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing, it means the most, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers.